Welcome to episode 83 of Beer with Strangers. I'm your host, Tony Russo, and I'm joined this week, as I'm joined each week by my co-host, Doug Griffith.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, close
See what
enough,
time it
yeah.
actually was. So good afternoon. And the weather report, sunny today, but cool. But at least the sun is out and almost all the snow here in southern Delaware is gone.
Yeah, and it's not kill you cold. It's pleasantly cold. I think.
But it was
this afternoon.
lower 20s this morning. So it's warming up at least somewhat.
Yeah, when I opened the door to let the dogs out, it was like.
Yeah, but anytime the sun's out, it just feels better.
It does. The other thing when I walk them even in the evening, what I'll do is I'll find a place where the sun's coming through and kind of like stand in one sunbeam while the dogs run around. All sorts of fun this week. I actually want to ask you a question. Over there, we've got some wine cooking. You have some wine cooking.
Yes.
Tell me about your wine.
Had class on Tuesday night in the Lewis store, and we made a Luna Rosa, which is a light red, maybe not too light, but anyway, it's a red wine, light in body. So it's nice, refreshing, not overly heavy. Go with some light foods. Cheeses would be real good with it. With Remy red sauce, it may be a little light on
Not
body.
strong enough,
yeah, not strong enough. But for cheeses and light chicken, I mean, you can drink whatever you want anymore for what you want.
Drink
but
what you like and be happy.
Right. But typically, it's not for a deep
Right.
sauce or like a steak or something.
A table wine.
Yeah, it's a nice drinking table wine. Yes, and it's just a parking away over there.
Yeah, it's funny. We were testing. We have new microphones.
Yep.
And we were testing them out, and Doug was trying to get because can I hear it from here? Or am I making that up?
No, you can hear it. It's parking pretty good.
So our microphones aren't that sensitive.
And what I mean by that is the CO2's been coming up through the airlock quite vigorously.
Yeah, it's
just like a coffee percolator.
Well, it's funny to think of wine as bubbling. I mean, I don't know why, but it's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're used to think, well, yeah, beer has bubbles, so it must bubble, and they're two different things.
But it's all part of fermentation. The yeast is converting the sugars into alcohol, and the byproduct is the CO2 that's given off, and there's a lot of CO2 given off right now.
Now, do people ever capture that to reuse?
Yes, they
CO2?
can. Yes, they can. Although most of the time you don't. But I've seen or read stories that homebrewers actually can put a tube on there and put it into a carboy.
Right.
And then when you rack your wine or beer into the carboy, it's full of CO2, so there's less oxygen induced into the wine or beer.
Well, that's
so
cool.
yes, you can capture it and save it, and it's heavier in air, so you can put it in, and it will follow the bottom and push all the air out to the top. Yes,
that's cool.
So
I actually just heard about a bottle opener that is like a needle,
right?
Where you don't have to open the cork.
I've never tried them. I've seen them, but I've never tried one.
And that's the thing; they fill it with CO2 or whatever, so the bottles it's always pressurized, and not bubbly, but it keeps it fresh.
But I've seen ones too, like you're talking about. That actually you put it in, apply CO2, and it pushes the cork out.
Oh no!
That's kind of assuming that the bottle holds the pressure.
That's giving the bottle.
But most bottles, it's probably not terribly amount of pressure, but it's still.
I don't know. You ever have a cork get stuck?
I have had corks get stuck, mainly old ones, where it disintegrates as you're trying to take it out.
So I don't know how much.
Or probably more often than not, the wine was let to sit upright for a while, and the cork
moist.
Yeah, dried out, and then it deteriorates quicker.
Even I know that part. But anyway, so back to beer. I just wanted to. I always forget. We always say, "Hey, this is the class coming up," but I never ask how the class went. Because you had beer last week too, right? Did you have beer as well?
No, that was the Saturday of the storm, and
nobody came.
Well, we just said it was canceled, although we were open Saturday. So
did people come out?
Yeah, I had quite a few people come out. Actually, that's more than what I thought.
Well, I was wondering about that because now that you mentioned it, I was thinking that if I were a home brewer, I'd get out as early as I can and get whatever I needed, so I could spend all day inside. Or
I thought we'd have more on Friday, getting prepped for working or brewing Saturday because it was a horrible day to get out and go anywhere. But we had more in Saturday than we did in Friday. You never know.
It's like
That's retail. Yeah.
A couple things that I had a couple experiences like that where on Saturday where I'm like, you know what, I'll go. One of them was just real quick. I went to Third Wave, and they closed early, which was too bad because I'm like, you know what, Kelly and I, my wife, got all.
What, on Saturday they closed early?
They closed at 4, and I'm like, you know what, let's put on a bunch of clothes. And if we have too much to drink, we'll walk home. We'll walk home in the snow. How awesome will that be? So we got there. We're like, okay, we're going to just spend the afternoon here. And they're like, last call. But I did have the opportunity to try the Blue Balls jalapeno. They had a jalapeno beer. It was very good.
Okay. I could get down and try it. I haven't been down for about a month.
Yeah, no, very good. They had 2 new ones. They had a, I don't even remember the other one. My wife had the jalapeno one, and that was so good that made me forget it. There was a strong ale. They have a Belgian strong ale with like raspberries or something like that. And again, it's good. I don't mind the fruit beers the way I thought I would.
Yeah. They have the Dawn Patrol on tap now, I think.
They do, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's funny because I get to be I try not to be that guy, like the know-it-all guy sitting at the bar, but whenever somebody goes on and on about how good that beer is, I'm like, and I was actually talking to a guy who comes here, and I'm like, that's the same as a coffee and cream stout over Extreme. He's like, it is? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, if you like that
Jerry, who's a brewer now there, came up with that, so he takes all credit for that.
Yeah.
And I think he took credit for trying to introduce them into making it, and it's been pretty good there.
Yeah, people love that. I mean, it's one of my wife's favorite beers that they make. And that's the thing, when you go for the evening, it's fun to try a couple of old ones and then have, a couple of new ones. And then if you want to have a couple old favorites or whatever. But the last couple of times I've been there, it's either been too late or I've been going someplace else. So it's like, I'll try the new things and then, I have to keep on trucking. Because if I start actually my favorite hasn't been on for a while, and I don't even remember the name of it. They do a black IPA. That's among my favorite beers. It's just, I know that sometimes
all the more reason go back and wait until they have it on tap again.
I think it might be a spring beer.
Yeah.
I think that might be it because it hasn't been on all winter. So
in the meantime, there's plenty of things to taste and drink.
Yes. And speaking of that, I want to do a plug at the beginning. We're having out beer talk and tasting with cheese. And if you'd like to go to shorecraftbeer.com's Facebook page or Shorecraft Beer's Facebook page, there's a list of all the breweries now and all the cheeses. And it's pretty exciting. They're bringing Third Wave's bringing their Sandstorm, which is a Belgian triple. And they're serving it with orange Stilton cheese.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very excited to go to this. I'm going to.
So where is the event going to be?
It's in Ocean City at the Clarion.
Oh, good. And when is it?
It is 4:30 on Wednesday. And that's it.
This coming Wednesday.
This coming Wednesday. So
yeah. What's that? The 3rd of
right? February 3rd. And that's the thing is like. The people, the public are invited. Please come if you'd like, but mostly it's for the industry. So they all want to get out of there before the bar rushes. The 7 o'clock dinners and things like that. But the idea is that we'll get people who will teach waiters and waitresses and bar managers and stuff just about the different beers that are here.
And how to pair it with different things.
Right. And we do it quarterly at different breweries. We do it at different breweries and the idea is to get people, it's another opportunity for people to get in touch with the brewers. So anyway, if you'd like to come out, we'd love to have you. If you're in the restaurant business, have your manager call because there's no charge. If you're not in the restaurant business, it's $5, but that's really just to make sure you're serious and to cover.
Is this the first time they're having the get together at a non-brewery?
This is the first time they're having a get together at a non-brewery.
Most time it's at the breweries.
Right.
Each one hosted at a different time. And
right. And well, the idea, I'll take credit, which is why I'm pushing it so hard. This was my idea. They were because my boss was like, we should do a pairing that, maybe do like a dinner, and where would we do a dinner, and how much would we charge? I'm like, oh, wait, I got an idea. Let's do cheese.
Yeah.
Because cheese is awesome. Cheese is one of my favorite beer pairings. Little story on Shorecraft today about cheese. I spoke with a woman who professionally pairs cheeses with and food with Goose Island beer. And so we had to find kind of a neutral place where we knew we could have food and where we knew we could get food.
I'm curious about one thing. Does the Clarion have craft beer on tap normally?
The idea is they're going to have a lot more craft beer on tap after this than they do now.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I understand that the hotels have not been very progressive at stocking some of the locals,
absolutely
local breweries' beers.
Right, that's absolutely the case. The Clarion,
and some of them actually see the local breweries as competition.
Well, I wasn't involved in that, but I do know that they that especially the Clarion is a kind of a wine place. They're like, we spend our money on wine. We're a wine place, so that's why we kind of chose them to host. I mean, they were willing to host, and they were great because they're buying the cheese, so they're great to do it, but they kind of see themselves as a wine place. So when we can show them, hopefully, that A, you're getting better margins on beer, and B, there are really good ways to make beer a really fun fun thing to serve. Well, I think they carry like 3 or 4, but they don't carry as many as clearly we would like them to, or anybody would like them to.
But are they bottled or are they drafts?
Now drafts.
Okay.
All of the breweries, the way it works is each of the breweries donates a sixtel, and then so they serve the beer from the sixtels, and what I'm guessing is that any of the leftover beer will just go ahead and get,
and they'll make something off that, hopefully toward their cheese purchases. So.
Right. Yeah.
So that's understandable. Yeah. Everybody contributes a little bit.
Right.
So.
And with any, like I said, with any luck, because it would be, the more we can get the craft beers into the hotels, the better for everybody. We're doing this that craft beer festival.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are buying packages, so they're going to go stay at the hotel. The hotel's going to provide them with a 6-pack. So like the beer, the hotels are buying 6-packs from the breweries, and so they're going to be providing mixed 6-packs in the room. And when they see
that's a win-win for everything,
absolutely.
I think.
Yeah, people are coming here and they're going to spend money at your hotel, and they're going to go get craft beer. And when they
go to the restaurants to eat,
absolutely. And if you have even if you have 30 people in your hotel who are there explicitly to drink craft beer, you're going to say, hey, this is maybe something we should have on tap. If people are coming all this way to try Eastern Shore beer,
right.
we should have it on tap. So I'm really excited about it. And Dogfish Head is participating, which is always good. It's funny because it's one of those things where people are like, well, who's coming? And I always say Dogfish first, and I don't even get to mention who's coming second, because it's like, oh, if Dogfish is coming, then it's legitimate. Yeah. But we have all 11 breweries, I think, participating in the festival, and 8 participating in the talk and tasting. So it's going to be fun if you'd like to come out, and I will report on it this time next week.
And that's Wednesday,
February
4:30.
4:30 to 6:30 at the Clarion. Yeah. And now to the news.
To our real topics.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to cough again. Excuse me. That's what I get for not having beer when I'm here.
We can take care of that.
Yeah. So first up, I found a story about hops. Would you like to do the hop story?
Sure. It's a story about a old hop that's a new hop, or a new hop that's an old hop. Anyway, it's a hop that apparently, and it's was actually a native of the North America, Canadian red vine hop. And I guess it was used in old brewings. Now, I don't know how old, it doesn't really say, but I assume it was around in the late 1800s. But its characteristics of growing were not desirable. The rhizomes spread too quickly at the base and didn't produce a tall vine like most modern day vines do. So, but they're trying to use it because it creates 4 to 5 times more hops than what the actual most productive ones do these days. So whether they actually keep it in its current form or breed some of it out of it and hybridize it, I guess,
Right.
to more conducive growing conditions or characteristics, time will tell. But it also apparently grows well out of the 35 to 55 latitude band that normal hops grow in, whether it's north or south. It grows good as far, even into Alaska. They've tried it, and down, I know they've been, I think there were trials in North Carolina, which are the lower end of the band.
Right.
But so we'll find out. Apparently there are some, it's overly bitter apparently, but that means they have to use less in the bittering, so it may be economically very desirable for some of the breweries.
Well, and that's what I was thinking. The two things that I thought is it's 5 times smaller, but produces 5 times more hops, right? So I don't know how if it's how terribly important it is to make it go up. If you can have it low to the ground, I guess you might have.
But they said that North Carolina, I guess, Ag Department had grown some and provided them to the Sierra Nevada brewery there for testing, but the volume that they had was so low that they got just not good. They don't have enough to really test it well.
Right. Give it to the homebrewers. That's what I say. It's funny. Yeah. I actually mentioned on the homebrewer Facebook page. I said, "Has anybody tried this?" And they're like, "No, but we totally will."
Well, I assume next year they're gonna. If they did this past year, next year they're gonna probably have 10 times as many to test. At least that would be my thinking. Or they've produced even more the way these rhizomes grow. Maybe they have 100 times more next year to actually do a full size batch.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with doing a 20-gallon batch just to see which way, or a 10-gallon batch just to see which way it's going to go. They
don't really say what size batch they did, just they didn't have enough to really evaluate them well.
Yeah, I feel like if Sierra Nevada was doing it, they probably wanted to do a larger. I don't know. I mean, everybody does pilot batches, right?
Right. Yeah, but what, how many did it have? Half pound? You don't know. So,
and so that was the enough. Oh, I wanted to talk to you about the nitro. And again, drink what you like and be happy. We all agree.
Well, Sam Adams' introduction of 3 nitro beers into the marketplace.
Right. I don't mind the and so Samuel Adams announced it would be doing some nitro beers in cans. And what's interesting about that is as much the cans as the nitro. Guinness does theirs.
Yes, and they've been doing it for probably 20 years.
I remember in the 90s. I maybe
having the widget in the bottom of the can.
Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle.
Yeah.
And everybody, did you cut one out to see what it looked like, or did you know?
Oh, I've opened them up. Yeah, little metal thing. At least it was at that time. I haven't looked at them for a long time.
Yeah, I mean that's similarly. You finish it and you're like, I got to find out what this is.
I've always wondered how they do that, because they must have something that dissolves, and then when you open it up, it releases the pressure, because they got to be able to put it in.
I remember.
Out of pressure, I would think. Unpressurized.
As a gimmick, a couple of years ago, they were selling Guinness where you would put it. It would go into the glass flat, and then you would put it on this vibrator, and the vibrator would shake it. And
oh, really?
it. Yeah. Which was really, really cool. I saw it at the HMRA show. It had, you know what? It had to be like 2006 or 2007. It was a long time ago. But that was the really cool thing for me.
But wonder if it was CO2 or was it nitrogen then also? I don't know. Usually the nitrogen, I know, you pop it and it puts that nitrogen in it, so then when you do pour it out, it's got that foamy head on it.
Right.
So
that like I said, I don't know how it works. I guess that would be fun to find out. But I don't know if I'm if the opportunity presents itself, of course I'll try them. I'm not dying to try them though. I feel like a nitro is kind of an at the bar thing. Is that just me? Am I being crazy?
Well, normally it's a special draft head that they use to put the nitrogen in the beer as it is poured. It's under pressure, normally with just CO2, and then it's dispersed with the nitrogen CO2 mixture.
I know that Sean wanted to pipe in a little bit, and I didn't disagree with him. He said that the nitro IPA he's not crazy about because he feels like they're too milky. They're not sharp enough. And I can
yeah,
totally
but
see that.
he really likes his hops, so
He really does.
And as a lot of the bigger breweries, they're doing this for the mass appeal, not just the
right. They're shooting for the
extreme
middle.
guys.
Yeah,
as Dogfish always tries to do.
So we'll see how it turns out. I'm not, like I said, I'm not against it. I'm excited to try it. But the other thing that it put me in the mind of is, how desperately do we want to try everything? Like at this point, there's I know I say it every week.
I mean, you're not going to be able to go to your normal liquor store and find any.
Right, and how hard do I want to try? Again, I would just as soon. I almost always go to Third Wave just because it's close to my house and I'm a responsible grown-up, right? But I just or I go to Evo or to Tall Tales, but I just as soon spend the money here and try the beers here. We make so many beers here.
Why do you have to buy something from outside the region?
It's tough. Like if I were out and about and and there was the Sam Adams, I mean, I would try it, but I don't see myself going out of my way to try a lot of the new beers that come out because, that are shipped here because there are more new beers that come out here than you could even.
You're going to try all the ones that are here.
Right. And you must recall, you remember when it was like once a month, you'd hear like, hey, we heard that, Burley's putting out a new a new porter, like, ooh, we can all go, and like you knew one at a time over the course of, now it's just mind-boggling. Evo came out with something called Crystal Row. Did you see that?
No, I'm not.
And that's an American strong ale.
Okay.
That's all I know about it. Made with crystal
malt.
What is that going to taste like?
It's going to have a little sweetness to it, but that can be counteracted with the hops again. So,
right.
I mean, it depends upon how hoppy they want it or malty they want it. So it can go either way. Well, but strong ale, probably 8-9% range, somewhere in there.
I know that Evo they don't do the big hops. Like there's some breweries where that there's they're not going to put out a beer that's not at least
real
intense.
Little bit
bitter. Yeah. But they're
but a strong ale I wouldn't expect to be overly hoppy, not like an IPA or a double IPA. So should be a little malty from the crystal, probably fairly light in color. But that sounds good to me. Let's go try them.
Well, that's the one they're bringing to the cheese tasting. So
all right.
I know I'll have. If I don't get there before Wednesday, I'll have some Wednesday. Although I will be going. I think I'm going to a craft beer bar, a new one called the Hoof and Shell. I think on Friday night for work. My job is so hard.
And where they're located? Ocean City?
West Ocean City, by the bottle shop. It's the people that do Bull on the Beach have done this. And I was there for lunch the other day, but it wasn't on the weekend. And I'm trying to behave myself. I found
try it. Limit your days of indulgence.
No, I think I'm going to change. I'm going to limit the amounts because I haven't dropped an ounce.
Yeah.
And I've been exercising and I've been eating right. So on the weekends, when I'm drinking, I lose weight. So I've decided to keep it to 6 ounces of gin.
Is it because you're drinking and not eating?
My daughter, who's not a doctor, she says that the sugar in the alcohol helps. Because I don't have sweets. I don't have any sugars at all. So she said her claim was that the sugar in the alcohol helps metabolize food faster. I don't know if that's true. all I do know is I started drinking again last night. My daughter's got me these the old timey martini glasses, not like huge ones, just the little one. I had 2 little tiny martinis last night, and I was like, a pound and a half down this morning. I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna drink ourselves back to our fighting weight.
I don't think there is much true sugar in there. You got lots of alcohol, but not any real sugars though. So
yeah,
maybe the alcohol does metabolize whatever sugars you got.
That's I don't know. And again, just like all my other weird cures, I don't care until it stops working. I'm gonna say it works.
Keep trying.
It was a couple interesting things on the legislative front and the beer regulation front. There were 3 stories that we wanted to talk about this week. The first 2 is on the campaign trail. Craft beer is being discussed now as they move into New Hampshire because the beer regulations there are a little difficult for the.
Oh, really? Okay.
You would think that New Hampshire, no, right, or Vermont, which I don't know the difference between them. I can't even pick them out on the map. Which one's the farther west?
New Hampshire.
All right, so maybe.
And Vermont's been very friendly, I think, to breweries because they've got a lot of different breweries in Vermont.
Right, Vermont, and maybe it says right here, New Hampshire. New Hampshire's the GOP candidates are there getting ready for their.
I couldn't get to that story today, so I didn't get to read that one.
Oh yeah, I couldn't get to it either. I just kind of looked around. It's on the Wall Street Journal, so I just kind of.
They wanted me to subscribe. Yeah.
I God bless them. I don't read the Wall Street Journal often enough to need to subscribe. So anyway, looking around it, the point of it seemed to be that they were worried that the craft beer industry was trying to get a little bit of the federal regulations just
eased a little bit.
One of the things that I think this is right. I said it in one, all right, so there has to be regulation, so the water is not poisoned. So someplace between don't poison the water and let us have beer is kind of where I'm.
but I don't know. Maybe it's in the adjuncts or the other ingredients that you can put in. There are restrictions, I guess, to some of the ingredients you can't use for some reason.
Right, and this was mostly they were talking about the TTB. The TTB is where you have to get all of your labels approved and all of your keg collars approved. And
unless you do it in house, and I guess don't distribute it.
Right, but if you want to distribute, it puts. I mean, there's a bottleneck there because this is one government agency that just wasn't prepared. Like we were talking about last week with the grain laws.
Right.
It's the same thing when Budweiser was making Budweiser every week. You could have one guy in charge of approving new beers at the TTB.
And now they all have to be approved. Every label has to be approved.
Right, and they have to have. If you have the IBUs on it, no.
Alcohol?
ABV, right? If you have the ABV on it, it has to be right. Which is, didn't you say that doesn't Dogfish not have it on one because the ABV?
Yeah, some of it's yes, I think so.
Like things that ferment in the bottle or whatever, or they don't have the ABV on it because it can be different.
Well, beer's in a way a living thing. Sometimes the yeast doesn't want to cooperate with getting it down where it's supposed to be. It doesn't eat up as many sugar, so it doesn't create that alcohol that you're expecting it to have.
And again, so these kind of regulations, they were set for different reasons, very much like the prohibition rules we were talking about over the last couple of weeks. They were set for one reason, and now they're kind of bottlenecking the other. One of the things that we found really disappointing was, we convinced a couple of breweries to make a special Valentine's Day beer for the February event, but they can't bring it because he's like, yeah, I could get a beer in 2 weeks, but I can't get it approved in 2 weeks. I can't get a new name. That's what I said. I said, you guys know you have stuff coming out, and they're like, yeah, it's not the question isn't whether or not we have a new beer that's going to be coming out in February. The question is that since we didn't start to try to get approval for the beer in October, it'll be done in February, but you're going to have it at.
Can't distribute it.
Right. And actually, to that end, I was at the Ocean City Brewery, and they had done a strawberry lager, which generally not my favorite kind of beer. they added it to orange juice.
Oh,
And
really?
they made like this kind of like almost like fresh. It was so fresh and so good. And it was a beer that I wouldn't have like if they'd just given me the beer, I would have drank it politely and said, it's good. But now I probably
Beer with the orange juice?
oh yeah, but the beer with the orange juice is very, very
And strawberry.
very good. Yeah, strawberry, so it's just strawberry orange. I forget what they were working on calling it, but
That sounds like a weird
it
combination.
was a weird combination, but it was quite good. And as someone who's
I
usually
can't.
not
I don't want to
into it,
complain about it because I haven't tried it. So
right, weird combination, and hopefully it will. Part of my adventures this week, I hope to do a couple of the beer cocktails and find out what the story on beer cocktails are, and I will report back.
a different combination.
And last but not least, and kind of along with this, one of the other laws in New Jersey has to do with. I'm sorry. It used to they just passed. This wasn't in Jersey. This was in Georgia.
Well, the heading says New Jersey, but
Right.
then you go into the body of the report and it talks about Georgia.
It used to be like this in
Yeah.
New Jersey, and now it's like this in
In
Georgia.
Georgia.
That's why I put it down. You want to talk about the law? You
Yeah,
remember?
it was. They're talking about charging for tours, and with the tour, you would get a sample of beer or beers. But they wanted to be able to change the price on the tour depending upon what beers were going to be sold or served, because depending upon what the beer is going to be served, it changes the price of what the tour will cost.
Right.
The tour is the same price, but when you
The
serve
beer
a
costs
different beer, you're serving a 4% beer, or you're serving a 10 or a 12% beer, or something higher in between. The higher the alcohol, the more it's going to cost to make.
Right.
So they wanted to be able to change it as the beers changed, but the regulations were trying to dictate one price.
Well, and that's the other thing. A lot of the distilleries were against it, and one of the things we're finding here in Maryland even is like, as you were saying before about the hotels, the restaurants, or the restaurant associations are
Fighting it.
they don't like craft breweries that are also restaurants. They don't
Okay.
like that
It's
you know,
competition.
that you can sell a $5 pint that I have to sell for $8. You know, and so it's funny they're kind of banging heads against, and the distillers were in on this. But the reason I mentioned New Jersey was because the brewery that we went to there, the first time I went, you'd have to go down and you'd have to take a tour because it was for education purposes that you were allowed to buy pints to taste, to try. You know, everything was supposed to go out the door. You could buy a can, you could buy a growler, but if you wanted to get a tasting, you had to be there
Take
for
the
educational purposes to take the tour. The second time I went there, they just had the tour running on a loop on the television.
So you can still get your education, but you drink a pint.
Yeah, you don't have to. It was so that they didn't have to always have some poor schmuck standing around to take you on a tour when you'd been there 4 times. You know.
Well, I think up was 4 or 5 years ago. Same thing here. You couldn't get nowadays, but it was when evolution was where third wave was. Originally, you couldn't buy a pint.
Right.
You had to get tastings of whatever they had, but you couldn't buy that pint.
Right.
And they got the law changed, so now you can get the full pint.
When it was the same when at Eastern Shore Brewing, you could only buy a tasting, and it could be no more than 4 ounces. So they had their tastings were a flight of 4, and people would just say, "Okay, I want to taste that beer 4 times." And it was the same as a pint. You just had,
and they met the regulation,
so there are ways around it,
Yeah.
and I think and I saw the head of the alcohol, tobacco in Maryland speak to the brewers a couple weeks ago. I guess it's almost 3 weeks ago by now. And that's the impression he gave. He's like, on the record, we are totally going to enforce the law. It's our job to enforce the law. But I'm not going to, at tomorrow morning's meeting, say, hey, I want you guys to get out there on the breweries, and I want you to get this taken care of right now. It's like, the things we come across, we can't ignore, but this isn't on the top of our, we're not cracking down. It's, he
more looking at the underage drinking and
right. He was as diplomatically as possible. The impression that I got was like, we know it's the law. We're going to enforce the law, but we're not going to hit you with a hammer over it. We're going to say, hey, did you fill this out yet? Remember to fill this out. And I think he, along with the rest of the brewers, are hoping that they get it worked out legislatively
right,
before
and change
Trump
the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned something the other day that for Delaware, and maybe the same place, same for other states, there's the legislative side of enforcement that they dictate what has to be done. Then you got the administrative side who actually administrates the law.
Right.
And some things that they have to make sure everything that is in the law is administrated per the law, but there's other things that they can administer that may not
be the same.
May be the same, or that they've found that they have to do it this way. They're allowed some leeway.
Right. And so they can be more or less strict depending upon
Yes.
depending on how much paperwork they have to do, if they're more or less strict, probably. And that brings us to the end of our show. It brings us to the end of our half hour. Do we have any classes coming up?
I got a class next Thursday on extract brewing here in Laurel. And beyond that, I can't remember.
That's fine.
Oh, yes. And well, we've got this Saturday at Beach Time Distilling. We're having a tour and tasting of Greg Christmas's Beach Time Distilling in Lewis.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
and how are you guys involved with that? Or are you just spreading?
We're spreading the word, and also we're going to have some of our equipment set up there just to demonstrate what you can buy from us.
Right.
And do at home.
If you want to do lavender water and things like
Yes.
that. Lavender water. All right. Well, that's it then. Until next week.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Doug.
The slogan, I can't remember it. I never remember that.
That's all right. Drink what you like and be happy.
Yes, by all means.
By all means.
I got to put it up there. Or put it up there.
I mean to every week.